Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am Aphrodite, aka Madam Suave. If you are new here, I would like to welcome you to the community. Be sure to check the description box below and like, comment, share, and subscribe if you feel called to. Remember that energy is timeless and fluid. This could be past, present, or future energy. Flip roles if they need to be reversed, and only take a resonance, leaving the rest for what it's meant for. So we're going to go ahead and see what message Spirit has for you guys today and what is in the current energy. And so far, what I have here is that you are learning and uncovering deep or dark secrets that may be uncomfortable at this time, okay? So whether these are things that you are uncovering about yourselves or potentially others, I'm not sure. You're gonna have to take that how it resonates for you, okay? Maybe you felt like there was something you had to hide because of judgment or beliefs of others, or this could also be maybe you kind of put more pressure on yourself as well, okay? So maybe it's not like something as extreme, but maybe it is extreme to you, or feels, maybe like overwhelming in that sense for you, something that you felt like that you couldn't share, but that maybe wouldn't be judged, but it's just something that you had a fear of within yourself, okay? Now, on the flip side of that, I'm also picking up on energy where you're not afraid to talk about the things that most people won't or don't at least speak about openly, okay? So you could be someone who you speak about a lot of things openly that maybe people may typically not, okay? Because this could just be a part or aspect of yourself that you are kind of very comfortable with within yourself. All right, maybe you have experiences that you're not proud of, but you are proud of the growth and the things that you learned from these experiences, okay? Because you are not born with angel wings, you do have to earn them. So this may pertain to health as well as identity, okay? So in whatever aspect, because both of those things are present here, or these are things that just make you you, but maybe you don't want to be defined by it or identified by it, and it's just an innate part of who you are, okay? But also, someone here, you are bottling something up, and it's creating this feeling of fighting against yourself because there's something that you either need to say or you're using this to propel you forward, okay? So maybe you're not speaking on something, but more so you are kind of using it to, I don't know, maybe if this is like using it as fuel, using it as motivation, something of the sort, okay? So either you are bottling something up, or maybe you're no longer bottling something up. So like I said, take the how it resonates for you, okay? Because there is an energy of change here. I will say an energy of change is here. But there is also, we have been having lots of love energy come out, okay? Now, this does not necessarily have to be someone, this does not have to mean like romantic love. So like I said, take it how it means for you. If this is like family, friends, etc. But I am picking up on someone, okay? I was picking up on a romantic feeling, but like I said, for you, take it how it resonates for you, okay? But there is a love energy, and someone is very eager, possibly a bit restless, and they are ready to spill it all, okay? This person has a lot to say that may make you emotional, okay? Just about like things that they may notice, okay, or see within you, because they see your heart clearer than anyone else has before. And this may be a slightly uncomfortable feeling, but in a good way, okay? I was kind of feeling like stomach flutters, okay? Stomach flutters. Yeah, it's like, even if you don't, because remember how we were talking about, maybe, either you or this person is not used to being vulnerable, but they can see all the vulnerable parts of you, even if you don't like openly display those things. Maybe even in your times of and maybe even in your times of vulnerability, like maybe it's even still, somewhat filtered, but they see so much in what you do show, but that isn't inherently seen, okay? And they know that the intelligence and wisdom that you have comes from experiencing pain that you may not have given yourself the time or space to fully feel, because you are someone who is constantly analyzing. And this is just how you process and make sense of the world. So you may be someone who you kind of downplay your experiences, or maybe they just seem bigger or more serious to others than you because of how you process. But if someone were to kind of to say it back to you, or kind of like maybe they were to speak it as, their own experience, you might be like, oh yeah, that does sound kind of bad, or, I can see, how extreme that may sound to others, etc. Okay. And it's because that you feel others' pain a lot more than you feel your own. All right. And so I kind of want to actually give an example here, because I briefly, kind of told you guys about how it was for me kind of early on in my journey, and how I was kind of glad that you guys missed a certain phase of my journey, and how I do kind of like to go through my rebirths in private, okay? Because that is a very, very personal time, especially when it is dealing with self-reflection, okay, or a need to self-reflect. However, one thing that I also realized is that a lot of my journey has been displayed outwardly, okay? So even though a lot of those moments, kind of happened in private, or were not displayed, or were not shown, a lot of that you can still see the growth displayed outwardly, because it's like one thing about me. And this was partially, you'll see why, but partially it was due to anxiety, and the other part is The other part is just because there's no need to kind of hide who you were before kind of stepping into stages of growth or growing from something, right? Because I feel like it is also kind of helps others, inspires others, it shows others that, you know what I mean, like it's okay, like everyone does grow, okay? And so the ability to actually see the growth is kind of like, it's more beneficial than kind of, you know, hiding everything that maybe you aren't so proud of. Because there are things, like I can tell you, there are things that would make me literally cringe, okay? Even on this channel, like my first video, there are certain things, just, I don't know, just certain things that, you know, maybe I said that I'm like, you know, that's a little cringeworthy. Not because I don't really know how to describe it. It's not necessarily the thing that was said, but and not even necessarily the how it was said, but I guess the energy that was behind it. And I can't really necessarily describe it. It's just personally for me, it's something that kind of makes me cringe, but I wouldn't take it down, right? Because like, I still feel like, you know, there is something to be learned within that. However, let me get back on track, okay? Let me get back on track because I'm going all over the place. So yes, there were many times, you know, early on in my spiritual journey where I sat myself down, or I felt like I was being spiritually silenced, spiritually sat down. Sometimes I would voice this out loud. And what I mean by, you know, being spiritually silenced, that just means that you are being convicted within yourself, kind of like a need to self-reflect, kind of like, it's almost like you feel like you need to reel yourself in a sense. I would say not necessarily just to reel yourself in, but kind of to refine yourself. A period of refinement is the best way that I can put that, okay? Because oftentimes, you know, during, you know, this beginning stage of you know, my journey, like I said, my proactive journey, and by proactive I just mean that my sole focus was me, okay? I was solely focusing on myself and actively kind of delving into that aspect of myself. And so though I oftentimes I spoke from a place of love and concern and passion, okay? I am a very, very passionate speaker. The love was sometimes absent or unable to be felt, okay? Now, it's not that anyone, you know, has ever voiced this to me, but this is just something that I can kind of see myself, okay? Because like I said, I do self-reflect often, and most of the times, like, I can feel it immediately after, all right? So it was very much giving me parent energy, okay? So this is kind of fear-based, okay? So though I was speaking from a place of love, it was also coming from a fear-based place, okay? So I had to learn how to release control and actually find peace in the truth, okay? Because one thing about it is, when you first kind of start diving into deeper truths, when you begin to kind of focus on things, everything in that moment feels like it's an emergency, okay? Everything feels like it's urgent, it's an emergency. You're like like, everything feels a lot more extreme than what it is. And that's not to say, that's not even to downplay, you know, anything that is going on, but it's kind of like you have to like re-understand that a lot of these things have been going on for like a very long time. It doesn't mean that it's okay or anything. It just means that, bro, just chill. You know what I'm saying? Like just chill, you know, mellow out, and understand that, you know, you can't control it. And it wasn't until then to where, you know, like I said, you know, my gifts have always been here, okay? My gifts have literally always been here, but they didn't become, you know, more pronounced until I actually went through that. It was at a point where every time I would post something, I would get extreme anxiety. And so when I would get anxiety, either I would disappear for a long time, or like I couldn't look back at what I posted, or like I'm thinking about it, but it's like I can't even look at it to go delete it. So I'm just going to leave it up there. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to leave it, and then yeah, I would disappear for like long periods of time, or like, and there was a period of time, like I said, when I would go through these periods of, you know, silence, reflection, I would just disappear off of social media, period. Okay, no social media. This is just something that I needed to do for myself, with myself. It's like I said, because, you know, before you can teach, you also have to learn. You also have to learn to teach yourself, okay? And one of the reasons why I was so anxious is because it was coming from a place of being uncentered in the nervous system, okay? The nervous system, the solar plexus was all out of whack at this time, right? So that is why it was that lack of security within the self. And this is why I say, you know, you cannot judge your spiritual journey against someone else's spiritual journey, okay? Because to you, what appears to be someone's up is actually their down. Okay, so just because like I said, sometimes it's like people, say things with conviction, and there's a saying that says just because it's popular does not mean that it is correct. Okay, so saying it with conviction and actually being convicted is two very, very different things. Okay, because sometimes people still lack uncertainty, and before you can make a statement, you must first learn how to ask questions. All right, so and that was something that I had to do, because in the beginning, everything you're like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, right? But then it's like, okay, you're seeing it, you're taking it in, but make sure you're asking questions. Make sure you're actually taking time to kind of process what you are getting before you just react to it, right? Because now this is a muscle, this is a reflex, and you got to kind of learn how to control that reflex, right? You can't just act on every single thing, because during that time, things are very emotional. There's a lot of different emotions being uncovered, etc. Okay, this is just like one thing that I learned. All right, so it's like I was kind of stepping out of my own comfort zone at that moment, right? So this is like something that I always had, deep thoughts inside my head, but things that I may not openly vocally share. Okay, things that I always had in my head, things that I was always interested in, etc. But for me, this was me kind of stepping out of my comfort zone. Okay, and that was scary, because one thing about Aries is that though we represent bravery, we represent courage, it's like before you know courage, you must first know fear, right? And oftentimes, people say that Aries are the baby of the zodiac. Okay, and me personally, I do not like rudimentary astrology. Okay, it's something that it serves a place and a purpose, but kind of when we are kind of delving into deeper things, I just really prefer not to talk about rudimentary astrology. Okay, it can be entertaining, but for someone, if you're like trying to learn about astrology, etc., kind of going off of like stereotypes, etc., are probably not the best thing to do, because even when I'm speaking about Aries, I'm going to speak about it as an energy, because I'm not going to lie, not everyone necessarily represents Aries energy in its most pronounced state, if that makes sense. And that just kind of goes all across the board, right? Because everything, like I said, energy is a spectrum, and energy is it's not always going to necessarily be consistent in everyone. And then there are also several other factors that go into it, so you can't just use only astrology, but kind of actually understanding what those energies mean and looking at it as an energy rather than just things that are meant to be attributes are much more meaningful and hopeful to actually like gain understanding of others, and not necessarily just others but the world as well. Okay, so like I was saying, a lot of people say that Aries are the baby of the zodiac, but I would also argue that no, Aries is the first stage of many phases that you face in your life. Okay, not only just the first phase but also the end phase. And I'm kind of not necessarily going to contradict myself, but almost in a way contradict my no not going to contradict myself, because the reason why I'm saying the first and the end phase is because technically, the end is the beginning and the beginning is the end. Okay, and so during these cycles, there are a lot of things that people do not get to see, despite the many things that we may show. Okay, so a lot of what we show comes from a place of things that have never been seen, things that people may never get to see, things that people may never get to experience about us. Okay, like people think that we're just very like goofy, we can be reckless, impulsive. This is like when we're getting into rudimentary astrology. Okay, that we're reckless, impulsive, we can be immature, etc. When really what it is that we are maintaining our innocence and our purity. We are maintaining our innocence and purity through the many experiences that we have faced. We are tough, but we are also softies. Okay, and one thing that I can say is there was a period of time where I showed absolutely no affection. Like, me showing affection was a very, very rare occasion. Okay, and now I'm at the point where it's like I absolutely love affection. I love love. Man, I would watch like little like romantic movies and stuff, especially when I was younger, and I would kind of just like cringe or like laugh at it. It made me very, very uncomfortable. Even sometimes, like, I'll look back on things that I wrote. Like, I've always been, like I said, kind of like an emotional person, very in tune with my emotions. But these are things that I would only kind of like, it felt very uncomfortable, like, out loud. Like, why are you guys doing this? Why are you doing this? And so, like, things that I write, like, sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, bitch, what is going on? Like, are you okay, girl? Like, who is this? Who is this? And I look back at things that I wrote and I'm like, oh my god, this is so cringe. Like, no one can know that this is like who I am. Like, no one can know. But now it's just like, like, it is what it is. We are just lovers at war, prepared for any battles that we may face, protecting and preserving ourselves because we know that we are our only constant. We teach ourselves that independence is a necessity to survive, but isn't necessarily what we want or desire, okay? We just learned it at an early age to be everything for ourselves and tend to be the mother to everyone else that we've been to ourselves, teaching them things so that they do not have to learn it themselves, but that isn't how lessons are learned or wisdom is gained. People also say that we're great at starting things but never finish, when really we understand that multiple cycles are happening at once and cycles are not linear. And to us, there is no such thing as finished. And we never stopped. We took time to refine so that we'd be ready when the time is come, okay? So like I said, people say that, Aries is the baby of the zodiac. It is, in a sense, being maintained through lots of, difficult experiences, okay? We aren't just born with, courage and bravery. Like I said, you don't become brave or courageous without first facing fear. And so as much as people say that we are the baby, I could also argue and say that Aries energy is an aspect of the divine mother energy, okay? It is literally the energy of a first-time mother, okay? A scared mother, if you want to call it that, okay? It is the scared mother before kind of gaining that balance and that emotional security within the self, all right? So as I said, this is an aspect of the divine mother energy because, right, 4 represents both Aries and Cancer, okay? In Egyptian astrology, Aries is represented by the number 4, okay? So this is an aspect of divine mother energy, but can be harsher at times. So you may have had a mother who was harsher with you and you couldn't feel the love, but it's because they wanted you to be successful, possibly also independent, or they saw you going down a path that wasn't good and their only instinct was to protect you, but they didn't know how and they felt like they couldn't, okay? So to them, it felt like trying to stop a train literally by standing in front of it, and their worst nightmare came true. And maybe you are kind of finally feeling it. You are kind of beginning to feel this love where you hadn't before, but it's during one of the worst times for you. You may be feeling like things may have been different if you felt it sooner, and this is a lesson for the both of you, okay? The lesson is not hiding the emotion behind another emotion, but expressing it raw so that it can be felt and understood. So this is something that was learned, but it was learned unintentionally. So you may have been trying to, like I said, because we be having crossovers, so I don't be knowing if I'm speaking directly to a mother or it's or if it's like this is, someone's mother, okay? But it's like you or they were trying to teach you. Yeah, so just kind of flip it, okay? But it's like they were trying to teach you to be strong, but never learned how to properly deal with their emotions. And so, because I forgot we were talking about love energy, okay? So the you or them is like, this could be for someone that you are either connecting to, or this is just you yourself, okay? So they were holding and storing a lot of sadness that just turned into bombs or explosives waiting to go off. Okay, this is kind of what this is giving me, is that this could be, you could be a mother watching this and this may be your child or something of the sort, okay? But someone's love pulled you out of the darkness and helped you to understand your subconscious and made it less scary. Whew. Whew. Okay. All right, so they revealed all the colors in the dark. There's also a portal opening, okay? So there's a lot of sadness and not knowing where to put it or place it. But the biggest lesson here and the biggest thing that I could say to you is to allow yourself to feel and express. Do not repeat old patterns of trying to cover it up or put on a brave face, and do not shut the world out, because you will do more harm to yourself than good. This needs to be released so that they do not end up taking over, okay? Funeral energy did come out, okay? So I do have to address it, and something is beginning to set in for you, and you're feeling differently than you may have originally thought that you would, because right, you cannot plan out your emotions. You can't really plan how you're going to feel or kind of predict how you're going to feel in the moment or when something like this happens. And I'm not going to try to, intellectualize your pain, okay? There's never a right thing to kind of say in a moment like this or a time like this. Sometimes there is just a need for silence, okay? And so with that being said, I am going to end it here. This does conclude this message. If you got anything from this message, if you enjoyed this message, if you enjoy my content, my channel, my energy, etc., I do ask that you like, comment, share, and subscribe if you feel called to. And I'll see you guys all next time. I love you all. Bye.